So I've played a lot of video games in my day, from platformers to open world games to shooters and so on. But if there's one genre that stands at the top for me, it's the RPG. I love RPGs, and in particular, if you couldn't tell by the other content on this channel, I have a slight leaning towards JRPGs. Many of my favorite games of all time come from this denomination of the genre, and today I wanted to talk about my 10 favorite JRPGs of all time, starting from my least favorite and working my way to my favorite. But I don't need to tell you how top 10s work. You probably figured that out after this long on YouTube. Now, this list won't actually be my 10 favorite JRPGs, technically, as I will be limiting it to one game per franchise. If not, it would be all Kingdom Hearts, Trails, and Final Fantasy. I think this way better shows off my tastes in JRPGs. With all of that out of the way, let's get right into it. We're starting off the list with one of the most nostalgic games of all time for me personally, with Pokemon Platinum. Now, I, like many others, started my JRPG journey with the Pokemon series. I remember getting Fire Red and Leaf Green for my birthday one year, and playing the absolute crap out of them, especially Leaf Green, which was my go-to of the two versions. However, the games I sunk the most time into were actually Diamond and Pearl. Diamond in particular. I spent so much time on this game with my friend trying to catch the whole Pokédex with our limited knowledge of the game mixed with a bunch of playground rumors and guessing. I even remember thinking that you could catch Darkrai by just doing some things correctly. So, you might be asking why I haven't picked Diamond for this list, and that's because I just like Platinum more. I think it's the best way to experience the Sinnoh region. Speaking of Sinnoh, it is easily my favorite Pokemon region. Something about the colder atmosphere and mountainous areas really struck a chord with me. Not to mention the absolutely amazing music with the different day and night themes. I think Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum have the best soundtracks in all of Pokemon. Is that because of nostalgia? Maybe, but I don't care. The music means something to me. You have great tracks like the Mount Coronet theme, or the Lake theme, or the Eterna Forest theme, or even the Galactic HQ theme. It's just filled with amazing music. In terms of gameplay, I don't have much to say, really. It's Pokemon, and I really like Pokemon's gameplay, even if it is a bit simple compared to other games in the genre. I'm not much of an expert on the intricacies of Pokemon combat, so I don't know much about the changes here besides the physical special split, which was a good thing. I just know that I really like how the game plays and the different Pokemon available in Gen 4. The story also isn't much to speak of either. It's classic Pokemon, so it works for what it is. A simple story about traveling to become the best Pokemon trainer. The stuff with Team Galactic was kinda cool, but nothing really blew me away by any means. And that's fine. It works. It's just what Pokemon is. I don't need Pokemon to have super intricate stories. I like the direction the series has gone in storytelling-wise, with things like Black and White and Scarlet and Violet, don't get me wrong. And I think they're a step in the right direction narratively, but a simpler story never really bothered me for Pokemon. So yeah, Pokemon Platinum may not have the most intricate gameplay and story, but it's a game that means so much to me. It started my journey through JRPGs, and I have so many fond memories of it. From the region, the music, and the overall vibes, it's a game that feels like home to me. So it easily earns its spot on the list. Next up, we have Bloodborne, which is my favorite Souls game. Souls? Soulsborne? Soulsborne Rings Die Twice? Whatever the series is called. And yes, I do consider the Souls games to be JRPGs. I know others don't, but I do, and this is my video. Anyway, Bloodborne was my first Souls game, and for the longest time, I was actually not a fan of the series. I tried to get into it, and this game specifically, but I just did not vibe with it. I was honestly unfairly hating on this series for the longest time. Eventually, I really thought about why I didn't like the series, as it had a lot of stuff in it that I should have liked due to my other tastes in games. So, mainly due to a friend of mine who also likes these games, I decided to give Bloodborne one more honest try. I tried to really learn the systems and combat, and to just let the game do its thing with all of my biases aside. And yeah, I really love the game. Starting with the gameplay, and this is the star of the show for pretty much all Souls games honestly, but Bloodborne has my favorite combat in the series. I love how much of it focuses on aggressiveness in combat, and dodging rather than parrying or blocking. The boss design is also incredible and probably the best FromSoft has ever done in my opinion. At least it's in contention for that achievement with Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro. There's just so many great bosses in this game. Plus the whole ability to cripple enemy limbs was such a cool mechanic, which I don't think FromSoft ever brought back from what I remember. I do still think this is the easiest FromSoft game though, which is ironic because I always hear everyone saying that the hardest FromSoft game is your first FromSoft game, but that's not true for me. I think my playstyle just really meshed well with this game. The levels and area design in this game are also really good. The tight corridors mixed with the game's incredible art style and setting made for this claustrophobic feeling that put me on the edge of my seat in a good way. This game's atmosphere is just incredible. Plus, I really had the urge to check every nook and cranny of this game's areas. FromSoft is one of the best in the business when it comes to crafting linear areas that never feel restrictive. In terms of story, Bloodborne's is pretty good. It's pretty much in line with other Souls games for me, so nothing incredible. Pretty simple for the most part. Where the game, and series for that matter, really shines is in the lore, and Bloodborne's lore is really good. I love the gothic turned cosmic horror reveals in both the lore and atmosphere. I still think Dark Souls and Elden Ring have more interesting lore for me, but Bloodborne's is still amazing. Also, this game has probably one of the best DLC in the medium. The Old Hunters is amazing, adding some great new areas and 3 of the series' best bosses in my opinion. Plus Laurence and the Living Failures, but we don't gotta talk about them, especially not Laurence. The new lore added was also incredible. Plus, I'm not a huge fan of the music in Souls games. I know that's sacrilegious. I just think they tend to be alright at best, but pretty generic overall. But the Old Hunters DLC is an exception to that. Good lord is the soundtrack for this DLC amazing, especially Ludwig's and Laurence's theme. Bloodborne is an amazing action RPG and is, in my opinion, the best of FromSoft. It's an incredible experience from start to finish, with one of the best atmospheres in all of gaming. It's the game that started me down my Souls journey and got me into one of my favorite series of all time. It's an amazing game and easily earns its spot on this list. So this next entry is going to be a bit short, as it has been a hot minute since I last played this game, but it is without a doubt one of my favorites. It's my favorite Tales game, that being Tales of Xillia. This game is incredible, from its story to its characters to its art style, but where I think this game really shines is in its combat. The Xillia duology as a whole is the best this series has felt in terms of gameplay, for me, at least from the ones that I played, with me needing to give the slight edge in terms of combat to Xillia 2, but the characters and the story of Xillia 1 propel it above its sequel. The art style in this game is also incredible, especially in terms of the visual design of the areas. The way this game looks is defining of the PS3 era to me, from the beautiful towns and cities to the incredible field areas. It's all so amazing. I love when a fantasy world uses its setting to make worlds that look, well, fantastical, and Tales is one of the best to ever do it. Truly a wonderful game that I really need to replay sometime soon. Hopefully Bandai Namco will get on that remaster sometime soon. Anyway, Tales of Xillia is one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. It defined my high school years, and it's a game that will forever mean a lot to me. Surprise, surprise, a Falcom game. Next up, we have Ys VIII Lacrimosa of Dana. Now, I did not get into Ys until this game had its PS5 port, and I was a bit skeptical going in because for as much as I love Falcom and Trails, I actually didn't know much about Ys. The only things that I really heard about it were that it had better gameplay but less story focused than Trails. At least that was a general consensus that I got. Your mileage might vary, especially on the gameplay thing, if you prefer Trails turn-based systems like I do. Regardless, that in conjunction with me having tried Tokyo Xanadu a while back and thinking that it was pretty meh overall, had me going in with lowered expectations. I could not have been more wrong. Ys VIII is an incredible game all around. Starting with the gameplay, and yeah, it's amazing. Ys VIII is an action RPG that focuses on using skills in conjunction with 3 damage types to take out enemies. It sounds pretty basic on the offset, but it's honestly pretty deep and a ton of fun. There's also things like perfect dodging and blocking, which give certain effects when pulled off correctly, like increased speed for dodging and increased damage for blocking. You can even stack these to rack up a ton of damage on some of the beefier enemies and bosses. But honestly, I don't think this game's combat is its strongest aspect in terms of gameplay, even if I really do think it's great. What really steals the show on that front, to me, is the exploration. Very few other games have managed to capture the feelings of adventure like Ys 8. Exploring Siren feels both grand and enjoyable, and really gets you to understand why Adol loves adventuring so much. Plus, I love the Metroidvania elements with the adventurer's tools that allow you to access previously inaccessible areas. I love the feeling of getting a new tool, seeing the ability and going, ah, I know where I can use that. Also, I should mention how great it feels to see your exploration percentage go up. Something about it is just so addicting to me. I also love the variety of the areas in terms of visual design. The game managed to keep a cohesive theme as it takes place on the same island, while also giving enough variation for the areas to feel distinct. Moving on to the story and characters, and yeah, they're both phenomenal here. The story is incredible, with a lot of twists and turns that kept me on the edge of my seat. It's one of those stories that just had me thinking that I just had to see what happened next. My only real gripe with it was the ending, and even then it's only just one small aspect of the ending, so it wasn't game ruining by any means. But it did bother me enough to consider putting Ys 9 above Ys 8, as while I like Ys 8 more overall, 9's ending is damn near perfection. Both games honestly have an equal shot at a placement on this list, but 8 edges out slightly more in my opinion. In terms of the characters, they're all great. I can't think of many misses, especially in the main party. Laxia, Sahad, and Dana were some of my favorites in the game, with Dana being one of my favorite characters in all of fiction. She's amazing. That's also not to mention the great side characters with the other castaways. The bonding events and side quests with them were all great and really made me connect with them, to the point that by the end of the game, as my time with them was coming to an end, I was beginning to feel sad. That connection also made it so that I was excited to meet new castaways and add them to the village. It's just another great example of Falcom's character writing. With all that said, however, none of these aspects of this game are its strongest point. Sure, the gameplay is incredible and the story and characters are phenomenal, but what really reigns supreme in Ys 8 is that soundtrack. Good lord, is the soundtrack for this game incredible. One of the best in gaming, and I do not say that lightly. I legit think this is Sound Team JDK's best work, and it will be hard to top. You can honestly go to the soundtrack, pick any song at random, and it will be a banger. Sunshine Coastline is the Ys 8 song to a lot of people, especially because it's the song for the first real area of the game. And it is amazing, by the way. But my favorite is still Gendarmes. That song is so hype that it sounds like it would be the final dungeon theme in pretty much any other game, but nope, it's just the theme for a dungeon midway through the game, just a mountain you gotta cross. Seriously, do yourself a favor and listen to the soundtrack if you haven't already. You will not be disappointed. So yeah, Ys 8 is an incredible game. From its gameplay to its characters to its story to its glorious music, it all works to make for an unforgettable experience. Ys 8 is one of those games that had me staring at the credits, grinning ear to ear, and just being thankful for being able to experience such a wonderful game. I am still new on my journey through the series, so I don't know if Ys 8 will still remain as king in my eyes by the end of it, but it will always easily earn at least some sort of contention for its place on this list. Next up, we have Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. This was another game that, like Bloodborne, I was convinced just wasn't for me. It took me like 2 years on and off of playing to finish this game. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed what I saw from the music, characters, story, and world, but the gameplay just wasn't for me. It wasn't until I got stuck on the boss at the end of Agni Ratha, in conjunction with watching another YouTuber by the name of NicoB, shout out to him, he makes great videos, go check him out, play through the intro of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, that I really looked into the gameplay and tried to set my bias aside and learn the different intricacies of the combat. I spent like a whole weekend researching and testing things out, and eventually, I beat the game, and yeah, I really loved it. Starting with the aforementioned gameplay, despite my initial distaste for it, after ignoring my own stubbornness for once and learning it, I actually really started to enjoy it. I still don't think it's incredible by any stretch, but I honestly really like the systems in place, and I think it's a bit overhated. I still like Xenoblade 2's combat a lot more, if I'm being honest, but I honestly like this game's combat more than Xenoblade 3's, which I know is blasphemous to say. Something about it just really strikes a chord with me now. Also, side note, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 could have easily made this list for me, but I think Xenoblade Chronicles 1 just edges ahead for me by just a little bit. The exploration in this game is also incredible. The segmented open areas make the locations feel sprawling and adds a lot to the whole idea of you being a tiny little creature climbing up this giant being. The world of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is just incredible. Like I mentioned with the Tales of Zelia entry, I love when fantasy worlds have interesting and out there designs, and Xenoblade is one of the best series to do it, with the world in Xenoblade 1 being the best of the series in my opinion. The idea of life growing on a giant titan rendered immobile after a battle with its mechanical contemporary, with the only thing connecting the two titans being a giant sword embedded in the Bionis' torso, is so cool. Plus, the juxtaposition of organic and mechanical life on both titans is just amazing. I also love how the location of the area affects the climate, like the snowy mountains of Black Mountains being on the Bionis' spine. It's all so great. In terms of story and characters, Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is one of the best to ever do it. The story in this game is praised by many for being incredible, and those praises are correct. It is filled to the brim with so many great mysteries and reveals that culminate in an absolutely phenomenal ending. I don't want to mention too much because of spoilers, but just know that Xenoblade Chronicles' story is an unforgettable experience. The characters are all great too, especially Shulk, Melia, and Zanza. Shulk's growth throughout the game in particular is fantastic writing, and makes for one of the best RPG protagonists in my opinion. The Definitive Edition also comes with Future Connected, which I love. It's a great epilogue to the main game, and made me love Melia's character even more than I already did, which was a lot. Xenoblade Chronicles is a fantastic game. It has an incredible story and characters, a phenomenal soundtrack, an incredibly creative world design, and some honestly underrated gameplay. This game is incredible, and I highly recommend giving it a try if you haven't already. Next up, we have my current favorite Dragon Quest game, with Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age. Now, I like both versions of this game, and I think either would be in this spot regardless, but this entry is specifically for the definitive edition of the game, mainly because it added a lot of stuff that I really like, especially making the soundtrack symphonic, but I digress. Dragon Quest XI is a phenomenal game. The gameplay is a classic turn-based JRPG through and through, which makes sense because Dragon Quest is the classic JRPG series. Because of that, I don't have too much to say on the gameplay side of things for this game. It's great. It might not do too much to stand out amongst its contemporaries, but it never compromised the series' identity and just feels like Dragon Quest, which is a very good thing. Simple doesn't mean bad, and in this case, it means very good. I also love how this game has a world map that you can travel in through ships and other vehicles. I miss when JRPGs did that, as I feel like a lot are moving away from it. Where this game really shines for me, though, is in the characters and story. Sure, neither aspect is breaking new ground. As I said, this game is classic to its core, but both are still incredible. The main cast is all great, with my favorites being Jade and Sylvando, and the story is a classic hero's journey through and through. This game just fills me with a warm, fuzzy feeling that I can't properly describe. Now, I know that a lot of people have issues with Act 3, but I honestly really love it. It tied up a lot of the loose ends of the game, and I think it was a fantastic way to conclude it. So yeah, Dragon Quest XI might not break any new ground, but what it has is of the highest quality. It is at the pinnacle of classic JRPGs in my opinion, and is one that I highly recommend to anyone who is interested in Dragon Quest or just JRPGs in general. It's a phenomenal game. Yeah, you all knew a Trails game is going to be on here. For this entry, I'm going with my favorite Trails game, that being Trails of Cold Steel 4. But honestly, you could consider this spot to be the whole series, as the interconnected nature makes it hard for me to just talk about any one individual game. Regardless, in terms of Trails of Cold Steel 4, yeah, it's my favorite in the series. It has my favorite turn-based gameplay in any game, and its story is one that I hold very dear to my heart. It acting as not only the finale of the Erebonia arc, but also the climax of the series as a whole up to that point, makes it so special to me. And that ending is perfect. One of my favorite endings in anything, ever. If you want to hear me talk more about this game in particular, I would point you towards my Trails ranking video, as I have to stop here before I really get going, because if I don't, this section could be double the length of the rest of the video. Trails is just one of those series where every game has made me happy that I'm alive to be able to experience them, and Trails of Cold Steel 4 is the height of that feeling for me. This series just means so much to me. Next up we have Final Fantasy X, and if you've watched my Final Fantasy ranking video, you probably knew this one was coming. Final Fantasy X is a special game to me. Starting with the gameplay, Final Fantasy X goes back to the more traditional turn-based style after the series' long stint with the ATB system. Now, I do personally prefer the ATB system, but Final Fantasy X really makes the more classic style work, especially with things like the switching mechanic. The real star of the show, though, is the sphere grid. The freedom and expansive options offered make it one of the best customization systems in the series and the genre, in my opinion. The game moving away from the classic world map in favor of more linear connected areas is a bit of a bummer, but Square makes this new style work, as I never felt constrained during the game. I think that is in part due to the setting. The beautiful vistas of Spira mixed with the pieces of technology that feel both ancient and futuristic make for one of the most memorable settings in the series. Where this game really shines, though, is in its story and characters. Tidus is a fantastic protagonist, and probably one of my favorites in gaming if I'm being honest. The game initially presenting him as a bit arrogant, but showing his kind-hearted nature as you progress is a highlight for me. It all leads to some amazing moments in the late game. Also, him being essentially an isekai protagonist is a great excuse for the other characters needing to explain basic concepts of the world to him, and by extension the player. And it never felt forced to me. Besides Tidus, the other party members are great as well. I especially love Yuna and Auron. Yuna's journey and struggle with her fate are so expertly handled and make her one of the best Final Fantasy characters in my opinion. The love story with her and Tidus is also one of the best in the industry, and that kiss scene is iconic. Auron is one of my favorite characters in the series. His whole "it's your story" thing is so good. Plus he's just cool as hell. I've mentioned it before, but the story of this game haunted me like few other games when I first played it. It's an unforgettable experience from start to finish. The themes of agency and fate and the breaking of cycles of grief and suffering are chef's kiss. The reveals are fantastic and are heightened by the way the characters react to them, especially Tidus. It's a heartfelt story that I think people would be doing themselves a disservice to not experience. And that ending, whoo boy, one of the greatest endings to anything ever. It perfectly caps off the story's themes, and it makes me cry like a big old baby every time. Final Fantasy X is easily my favorite Final Fantasy game, and one of my favorite games of all time. It has great gameplay, especially in its customization with the sphere grid system, and it has some of the best story and characters in the entire industry. Truly an unforgettable experience. Another game that I don't think was a surprise. As the penultimate entry, we have Persona 3 FES. Now, I like both this game and Reload, but I just think that FES is far and away the better version to me. Starting with the gameplay, and I actually really like the battle system in FES. I know that it gets a lot of flack for having non-controllable party members, but I've honestly never really had a problem with it. All you have to do is scan the enemy, as your party member's AI learns from the scan, and to just remember to use the tactics menu. Using those two things in conjunction made it so that party members did pretty much exactly what I wanted them to do in every one of my playthroughs of this game. I actually think a lot of the fun of this combat system comes from the fact that you can't control your party members. All your control of them happens during your protagonist's turn, so you have to commit to a strategy for a whole round of turns. It adds a lot of tension as it makes it so that you need to be more careful with the protagonist to make sure that he doesn't get knocked down, as getting up takes a turn in this game, which is also a feature that I really like that was taken out in later games. One of the most fun times I have ever had with Persona combat in any of these games was using the Thunder Rain strategy to kill the Reaper at pretty much the lowest level possible. And that feeling is something that can only happen with a combat system like this. I also don't mind Tartarus all that much, as I think the game manages to pace you well with the tiredness mechanic. And I know the tiredness mechanic is something that also gets a lot of flack, but it's something that I actually also like. As again, I think it allows you to pace yourself and not burn out by trying to complete blocks of Tartarus at a time. All this plus the standard things that make S&T games so great, like getting new personas and fusing them to create more powerful ones that you can use to give yourself a wider array of options in combat, just make Persona 3 a really fun time to me. The other side of the gameplay is the social sim elements. Besides the dungeon crawling, you get to play through the life of a normal high school student by doing things like going to school, hanging out with friends, getting a part-time job, etc. This is honestly what the newer Persona games are known for, and it all started with Persona 3. While Persona 3 may be lacking in the variety of activities compared to the later games, it still offers enough to make for a great experience. The story and characters of this game are its highest point, however. The story is amazing, one of the best in the genre. The themes of death and appreciating the impermanence of life is so beautiful. And the different reveals and the way the characters react to those reveals is a writing masterclass, especially in those final stretches of the game. And that ending is fantastic. Another contender for best in the medium. The characters are also all great, with C's being the stars of the show. I love how the relationship within the party starts out pretty distant as the characters grow closer over time. That and the fact that believable conflicts crop up between the members throughout the game is so good. Mitsuru and Aigis are probably my favorite of the group, but honestly, I don't think there are any misses. The other social links are also great too. I know Persona 3's social links are commonly considered some of the worst in the series, but I actually disagree. I really love all of them, including ones like Kenji and the Gourmet King. They all tackle the main themes of the game in some way, which I really love. Akanari's is the best in the series though. That one still gets me. Lastly, I want to mention the game's style and atmosphere. The transition from bright colors during the day to the dark and dinginess of the dark hour contrast so well. The color use in the final boss is immaculate. The cutscene direction, especially in those 2D animated cutscenes, are just pure peak fiction, especially in the intro and awakening scenes. And the music is phenomenal. I still think Persona 4 has the best soundtrack in the series, but this game easily takes the silver for me. So, all in all, Persona 3 is a great game with some of the best story, characters, atmosphere, and music in all of JRPGs. It's a wonderful experience all around, and FES is the best way to play it, in my opinion. Truly one of the best games of all time. Finally, we reach my favorite JRPG of all time, and it's actually my second favorite game of all time. That being Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. Kingdom Hearts is one of my favorite series in all of gaming, and the one that got me to play more RPGs. It's one that is near and dear to my heart, and I think that Kingdom Hearts 2 is the best that it has to offer. The gameplay of Kingdom Hearts 2 is, for lack of a better word, amazing. I would go so far as to say that this is possibly one of the best action games to ever exist, in my opinion. Definitely one of the best action RPGs, for sure. The combat feels responsive and quick, and most of the enemy and boss design in this game is great. Sure, there are some annoying enemies like the Car Heartless from Timeless River or the big purple dudes from Space Paranoids, but the game always gives you a way to deal with these enemies. It feels like an almost perfect evolution of the first game's combat, in my opinion. Plus, the addition of things like drive forms add a ton of variety. The Final Mix version of the game in particular also has probably my favorite boss fight from any game ever, that being the Lingering Will. It is a perfect test of your understanding of the game's mechanics and has a ton of different strategies for beating him. It's a tough fight, but always feels fair. The story and the characters of this game are also great. I know Kingdom Hearts is kind of the punching bag of JRPGs, especially on this front, but I've honestly always loved this aspect of the games. The interconnected nature of the series makes for some memorable stories and character arcs, and this game is no different. Seeing the different mysteries revealed as Sora comes face to face with the rest of the mysterious Organization 13 that was introduced in Chain of Memories is so good. Plus, it has some great character moments, especially in the Roxas intro section and towards the end with Sora, Riku, and Kairi. This game is really great, what can I say? The vibes of Kingdom Hearts 2 are also unmatched. Well, the entire series is like that, but we're going to focus on Kingdom Hearts 2 for right now. The game might not have the same level of detail in its world design as the first game, but man, are the music and visuals just some of the best in the industry. I've already mentioned my undying love for Twilight Town, which is one of my favorite locations in all of gaming, but there's other great areas like Beast Castle, Timeless River, Hollow Bastion, and of course, The World That Never Was. Speaking of the music, the soundtrack is incredible. Yoko Shimomura is one of the greatest composers in all of gaming, without question, and her work in this game is no exception. It's so good. Kingdom Hearts 2 is a game that is very dear to me. It has some of the best combat in any action game, an incredible story, amazing characters, and an unforgettable vibe. It is a game that I will remember until the day that I leave this mortal coil. It is truly a one-of-a-kind experience, and easily my favorite JRPG of all time. So there you have it. Those are my top 10 JRPGs. I hope you liked the video. I know I can get a bit rambly and repeat certain words and phrases a lot, but I hope that I got my love for all of these games across. Please let me know what some of your favorite JRPGs are in the comments down below. I love to hear from you and maybe get some recommendations for more JRPGs to play. I might do another video like this on Western RPGs, but I'm not as well versed on that genre. With all that said, if you liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe and all that. It really does help me out. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful week.